What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to a new Daniel and Mark show episode brought to you by Hardcore Headstart. Today I have with the all-powerful Marky. Mark, tell me, you were nursing your arm just before we got on the potty. What on earth is going on with you?
I just went out, got my second dose of the Pfizer, and got that taste of that sweet taste of freedom, like many of us on Friday. Yeah, surprisingly, not too bad. Like first time round wasn't as good, but like this time round is just a bit of a sore arm and like a bit tired yesterday. But then again, also probably only got like 6 hours in, so a bit less than normal the night before. So it might have just been that as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, like how have you been up to much like since sort of Victoria opened up restaurants? Have you guys done the dine like restaurant sit down and eat yet, or?
Yeah, I'm not double vaxxed.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Right.
unfortunately, like you've got to be double vaxxed, but
Yeah.
I'm wondering like how long is that going to last? Like are people like for the first 2 weeks, you're going to be like, yeah, all right, you have to be double vaxxed. And then after that, they're going to be like, oh, all right, just come on in, et cetera, et cetera. It may not be the right thing, but I'm just like, I can't get a booking for the second one. I'll be honest, I haven't worked too hard at it, but it's just like I'm not sure still again about getting the second one and like all this kind of antiviral pill news I've been hearing. It's just very interesting to me, and I'm kind of trying to almost just sit on the fence for a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think it's kind of, especially like with the restaurants, right? So the small businesses that have like stand to lose more, right? Like the ones that are generally turning over a lot of revenue. They've got a lot of customers coming through. They might have multiple franchises, or like they're just killing it normally, right? They're the ones that are going to follow the rules, and unless you've got your passport, they won't let you in. But mate, if I was like one of the small business owners and I've been struggling for the last 12 months, I'm not going to make people's lives any harder. I'm just going to be like, you guys want to fucking eat in my restaurant? Come in. I'm not going to check your passport. You know what I mean? So I think that's probably the same mentality for, I think that's the same mentality for a lot of small business owners. The ones that have really been doing it tough are probably going to be a little less like strict in policing the double vaccinations. But yeah, I think it's interesting. Like Victoria, like we are like a bit of the nanny state. So if anywhere was going to police like something like this, it's probably here. I do hear like in the States, like Canada, they've been very strict on it. So they have kept doing it, and they're sort of like 6 months a year ahead of us. But then there's plenty of places in the rest of the world I don't think it's really policed. So
yeah, it's really interesting. I don't know what, like building a business, say previous to this, if you're just a small business owner, you're not assuming you're going to go 18 months to 2 years without any revenue, really.
Yeah.
Like, sure, there's kind of help from the government, et cetera, but it's only to get by. It's not to put yourself in a better position. So you've had to be strong previous to this to be in a healthy position at the moment. And I just think that not a lot of small businesses were. Like, just knowing a few small business owners, I know they were already paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah. Very cash flow.
Yeah.
A lot of these businesses are very cash flow dependent. They're sort of just relying on, takings for that week, and then trying to extend like payments to creditors, especially if they've got like, they've been working with the suppliers for a while. They might be able to sort of push out payments to 60 days or 90-day terms. But then they're really trying to push like the week-to-week sales and the customers coming in.
It's brutal. It's owning a small business at the moment. I'm not sure how, like, I personally would react if I was in that position.
Yeah.
Like I'd be in it'd make it very difficult to go on or to continue on.
Yeah. 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 I think like the ones that I've spoken to, they try to be really positive, but at the same time, it's kind of like, it's almost like survival. It's like, well, there's no clear way out aside from, like, let's say if you've broken, like you're at the end of your lease and you might sell the business, but there's a lot to lose by just like, by just sort of walking out as well, because you lose your goodwill. No one's willing to buy the business when the economy is not doing great. And, so you lose that portion of the business that you've built up. But then, there's also termination of lease contracts if you do it early, that sort of thing. I don't think it's very easy to get out of those either. Having said that, like anyone starting a new business and willing to take the risk, that might be an advantage for them, right?
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, that's the flip side.
Yeah.
Like a lot of big business at the moment that are strong really now were built out of the previous recessions, of the .com and then the 2008 as well. So it's an interesting dynamic that out of the ashes, Phoenix rises and kind of really become that strong business. But, getting over the dip, of what's going on at the moment, or the dip in just business in general, if you don't love what you do, can be really, really difficult.
Yeah. I suppose like for businesses during this sort of like 2 years, they probably really had a lot of time to reflect on why they're running business, right? Like, why are they, what drew them to going out on their own and, sort of taking on more risk, or maybe, like what were their reasons of starting in the first place? And if those reasons still sort of apply during like, when they're getting tested, like, with less business, more regulatory stuff from governments and not being able to operate, and bring in as much revenue like as when they started.
Can you give me 2 seconds? Yeah, can you hear that background noise?
No, I don't think so.
Give me 2 seconds.
All right.
Wait, lads. Can you please keep it down just a touch? Just on a potty. Yeah. Yeah. Fucking hell. Killing me. Fucking hell.
We're struggling to focus with the screen.
I can't fucking hear. There's just like so much going on. Sorry, man.
We'll edit. No, it was vacuum cleaning last week, so we're sweet.
I literally couldn't concentrate. I couldn't fucking hear what you were saying, so I missed that entire last point. So can you go build that one back up for me? What you were saying?
Sounds good. Yes, so I think a lot of businesses when they first start out, they've got a really strong reason of what's motivating them to get, sort of go down a path that's a bit different. So going out on their own rather than working for somebody else. During sort of the last 2 years, I think business owners, I should say, have really probably had that time to reflect on why they got into business in the first place and whether that why still applies. And, like when revenue is your main motivation for getting into business, this is a tricky time, right? Like if the money isn't there anymore, that's really going to test their reason for being in business, and a lot of people will pack up, I think.
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% right. Like we see a lot of people, like when they go into business, especially small business, is they actually just buy themselves a new job.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean, they don't go into business to kind of separate themselves and put themselves in a better financial position or give themselves more time. They essentially just, take on more risk, which is usually debt through a loan to purchase a business. And then they have to work there full time. So it's like, what is actually a better thing? Like buying a business that you have to work in full time or working for someone else. Like there's more risk when you actually just buy a business. Like as an entrepreneur or a business person, you want to kind of build up a business where you're not the main focus of it. You don't have to be there all the time. It's separate from you as an entity,
Yeah.
So, and exactly what you're saying, building your why. Like if you're just on a revenue model, it can be very, very difficult to get through times of trouble or what we call the dip, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think there's two types of business owners. There's ones who kind of move towards sort of scaling and sort of bringing in people to do the work while they grow the business. And then there's your owner operators, like the ones that are like, you like, think of your family run businesses, maybe your hairdressers where you might get a few staff in, but really you're still the main sort of business owner, or like
Mm.
restaurant owner. And I think, the ones that go, like, if you ask them, why'd you get into business? And they go, because I wanted to spend more time doing what I love. And that's their definition of success. They're the ones that will stay the course. Yeah.
Mm.
But the ones that go, I wanted to get into business because I felt like I could make more money working for myself. That's
Mm.
probably a potential red flag. Not necessarily, but that's potentially the first red flag.
Mm.
And then I suppose, if you've got the skills to match, you've got the passion, or like you define your success as doing what you love, then you have a chance of staying the course. But this applies not just in business. This applies in sort of career, like, whether you're working for somebody else or in your personal life.
Mm.
What do you think?
Yeah, I guess like moving into probably what I'm kind of saying, like what we're saying is the overarching principle of today is like your why, like why to do anything. So that's kind of been the main focus of, I guess, like the chats I've been having recently.
Yeah.
So this really ties into like what we're talking about with business owners and, people surviving the dip of, Corona and just business or recessions in general, or just business hard times, or really anything. You have to have a reason to do something. And I've realized lately that maybe sometimes people don't understand what a why is. A why is not a want. I want to be the best at something. I want to help people. I want to do this. Those wants are driven by a why. Like, why do you want to help people?
Yeah.
Why do you want to be the best version of yourself? Why do you want to be elite? Why do you want to be rich? Why do you want to be wealthy? Have you thought about those things, or is it just something you saw in an Instagram post of a want that you want to have?
Yeah.
Like, what is actually driving these things? So for me, like, I've probably preached at this point on this podcast of like, my metric for success is to help as many truly as much as possible, right? Help as many people as possible, truly, like really change their lives. That's my metric for success. And that is driven from my why, which is in Gili Trawangan, which is a little island off of Bali. I was able to see poverty for the first time, true poverty.
Yeah.
And seeing it on TV versus seeing it, I guess, like in real life is a completely different thing. And you would have seen this along your travels, but being able to see, a small island where the center of the island is the tip. They burn it in the center of the island. The locals there, they live 2 streets behind the main kind of hotels where it's all a really nice place. And, they live in very small huts with no doors and drink from wells that are clearly like, I don't even know what's in the water there. It's not clean water. Right. So I'm like, that kind of, and it goes deeper, like that person there, I don't want to just help them because they're in a bad position, but I want to help them because I had the opportunity to not go through that. Like, one realization you come to very like quickly throughout the journey, when you start, just studying or trying to become the best version of yourself, is if you're born in a first world country, you did nothing to deserve that. I am white in a first world country. This shit don't get easier.
It kind of brings perspective to, the whole, Victoria, we're the most locked down city in the world and we're getting these freedoms. Look at us, like, poor Victoria, right? But these third world countries, like a lot of people, they still don't have the basic, necessities like food, or they're, people are dying out there. They don't have healthcare and that sort of thing. It kind of puts perspective into this, this sort of metric that like our developed country has of like, we're the most locked down with the most harshest, sort of rules. So yeah, you're spot on.
But it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like, we're in lockdown. I get it. It's not great. Even I'm getting sick of it. I want to go out to a hotel because I'm accustomed to living this kind of lifestyle. I want to go out. I want to go out to a restaurant, sorry, with all the boys and my partner. I want to go out, eat a steak and have a nice wine. You're damn right I want that. But like, let's be completely honest. We are not hard done by just because we got locked in our freaking 3-story townhouses.
Yeah.
Like it's
uh,
absurd.
what like I guess like just rewinding back. So your your why of around helping people is I think like one that's like really like a worthwhile one where you've obviously thought about over time and your perspective has changed.
Mm.
How would you say your why or like what events or experiences have changed your why over time? Because I imagine like it's something that you've developed over time, not necessarily like you've had through maybe your teenage years.
Mm. I think it's developed into that um, because I guess I've just become a touch wiser. So my previous self had wants. It's like I want to be successful, I want to be rich, which is driven from ego and selfishness, obviously. Right. So
Yeah.
I want to do this, I want to do that, which is a decent motivator for a certain amount of time and gets a certain amount done. But it's not enough when you go through a certain dip, right? When you
Mm.
lose your entire net worth in the matter of days, or you realize that when you come to, what we call the knowledge dip, where you learn so much that you realize you know nothing,
Yeah.
you know, the search for money is not actually going to be a big enough reason to go on. So, money at this point is a byproduct of, me becoming the best version of myself. And with that money, I use it as a tool to help as many people as possible. Helping those people, or more importantly, seeing the reaction on their faces, or just knowing that they're going to be, I've helped someone in the world, build up a better life for themselves. That drives me considerably more than like if I just got the money, accumulated it, and was going to buy a Lambo, which, like, for me, it's, yeah, really gone from that point of like all about me to like all about as much as I can about someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like through your experience of, sort of as you've gotten older, you've realized that, yes, money is important and money is a tool, but, like when you go through like difficult things, like money isn't going to get you through those, those sort of rough patches to keep doing what you're doing. And also like, I guess like building on that, right? Your perspective of money does sort of change when you think of money in terms of how it can be used to help other people. Because within your own life, if you imagine yourself to have, you know, $10 million, $100 million, your life personally isn't going to change that much. And I don't know if you've had like a similar thought.
Yeah.
Um, but like, I suppose, for me, like in my sort of like, when I was like 18, 19, 20, I kept saying to myself, oh, look, I want to try to get to $1 million or $5 million, right? And I kept thinking to myself, like, it comes back to the why. So why do you want $1 million? Why do you want $5 million? And I flipped that on its head and I said, okay, like if I had $5 million today, how would my lifestyle change and what would I do differently?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have a whole lot on that fucking list that was like kind of, worth going, hey, I should, I really want to keep, you know, chasing this path of money so I can have those things like Lambo, yacht, or whatever, right? It's like, or maybe when I was 20, the idea of a Lambo was sweet. Yeah. I've driven a couple of cars and I've learned that like, you know, material things, they're shiny and they're interesting for a short period of time, but like anything, things fade off. And I'm wise enough to know that even the most expensive material things lose their appeal over time.
Mm-hmm.
If I was taught differently through my experiences and realized like, damn, like, this new iPhone or this new laptop actually changed my life, like, for forever,
Mm.
then maybe I'd be more driven to getting that Lambo. But I know like intuitively those material things won't do shit for me. and
Simple.
that's
Yeah.
and that's where you start thinking, yeah, bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've had that exact same thought. Like, um, yeah, what are your life? Exactly right. Your life doesn't change past fucking 10 mil. Like
what do you what
maybe.
do you what do you think, like, besides philanthropy, right? The ultra wealthy that have $100 million net worth, right, or $1 billion net worth, what are they doing differently to us? Like,
Is
I don't
in
think,
living their life, or is in?
yeah, living their life in terms of what they would be, their lifestyle, how it would be different to ours.
I think they're just accumulating great experiences
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
accumulating more knowledge.
Yeah. Well, that's right. And I think in terms of access to, whether it's like yachts or hanging out with other ultra elite people and having exclusive sort of parties with like, sort of other elite people and sort of helicopter rides and hanging out in Monaco and seeing like the Formula Ones and all that sort of stuff. But that stuff doesn't really appeal to me,
Mm.
So like, I'm not driven by that. Whereas like being able to help other people, I can sort of relate to that a bit more, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I've kind of done a decent amount of thinking on the lifestyle that I want to live. There's a
Yeah.
lot of traveling in there.
Yeah.
For a lot of years, there's a lot of moving around and that kind of stuff. Um, so for me, like that kind of lifestyle doesn't need $3 billion, right? But I'm understanding that the more money I make, the more people I can help, right? There's a stat through what's that stat we learned in Venus Bay? Effective altruism. It's like, what is it? Is it $2,000 donated to maybe kids in Africa can cure how many thousands of people with like blindness is Tacoma?
Oh,
What is
yeah,
that fucking stat?
yeah,
Jeez.
can't remember the exact can't remember the exact fact, but yeah, it's I mean like it wouldn't surprise me if it's kind of like $20 to $25 for like a single operation or less, So
Mm. That, or like I'm pretty sure it's just a pill,
yeah.
like a singular pill can cure blindness for people.
Mm.
I mean, what the and we don't have enough
Yeah.
resources to get that out to enough people, right? But there's people over here having laser corrective surgery, or there's people out here changing the colors of their eyes for no goddamn reason. What? Huh? How does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right. But just
Yeah.
people, they just haven't, I believe they just haven't surpassed that selfish thought of thinking about themselves and accumulating for themselves, which is not necessarily a fault of their own, because a lot of, just everything we listen to, media, content, YouTube, everything doesn't really preach or push this message.
Mm.
Donation is usually used as like a virtual signaling tool, not as like a why driven thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
donated.
Yeah. I think like for me personally, I think being able to like through traveling, sort of seeing people in developing countries still kind of be really happy with very little, makes me sort of feel like if I were to help those people, they wouldn't really need much to see like a big change in their lives. Whereas like in terms of like think about gratitude, right? You could spend easily a couple of $1,000s on your partner, your loved ones, your friends, your family, and you wouldn't see that really change their life that much in a developed country. So it's kind of relates back to your point around effective altruism, but also just you know genuine like getting a genuine sense of helping somebody, rather than just kind of um, almost like how would I describe this? Maybe like if you there's almost like this thing, right? Like on, let's say, like on Instagram, if you see a post, you like somebody else's post, or you're on Strava, you like someone else's like Strava post, and now there's like an obligation for them to come back and like your post, even though it might just be kind of like average or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like so there's that kind of queue of, hey, you sort of help me and I'll help you, but we're not making that big of a difference to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like in a third world country, you go over there, you spend time with people who, want to spend time with you. You sort of help communities that are sort of don't have the basic necessities, like clean water or whatever it is, and you make a big impact. So I can see why people find it rewarding and actually sort of want to focus their efforts in those areas.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's Like that's why I kind of built into my why. I make sure that I highlight every time that it's about truly changing people's lives.
Yeah.
Right. So like building on your point of like, if I just go and buy my parents like a new car, even, which is a decent purchase, like
Yeah.
not saying I have the money to do that, but if I did, like it's okay for like what, a couple of months, maybe. It's like, yeah, sweet, you bought me a new car. But after that, like imagine I just keep bringing up, oh, I bought you a new car, I bought you a new car. Then it's just me being a dick, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, but the change in their lives is not that much. But if I go and what's in literally what, let's use the example from before, cure
Yeah.
blindness in certain people for
Yeah.
an incredibly smaller cost, or if I just spent the same amount of money I would have spent on the car curing people, curing blindness in certain countries, in third world countries, like imagine the amount of value after the fact. Like, what's a value play? Not just speaking about why and like that would motivate me more to help more people, but like, where's the value translated, right? If I just buy a car, what can my parents give back to me? I'm not saying they won't or they couldn't, but like, what can they give back to the world? What value can they create from just, me buying them a liability in a car? Nothing.
Yeah.
That's not them. It's just in general. You can't get any more value past buying a car. It's done, right? The value is the car,
Yeah.
right? But the value in curing blindness in hundreds or even thousands of kids, depending on how much money you spend or how much money you can actually donate and use, those people now have a better quality of life, which means they can now read easier. Everything is easier for them to do, meaning
Yeah.
one of those kids could solve cancer. Is that
Yeah.
worth it? I think so. It's definitely worth it. So the value, like that right there, just in value, like I can potentially help the world solve cancer.
Yeah.
And that may for a lot of people seem ridiculous, but like it's true. How do you know? You don't. So I don't know. That's kind of the way I'm thinking. I'm like, there's so many people out there who not only just need help, but there's so much value out locked in these brains and locked in kind of lack of opportunity. Like the richest place in the world is the graveyard, right? Because people didn't actually have, the time or the opportunity to do enough with their lives. I don't want the same to happen for all these people, especially if I have the opportunity and the luck to be born in a first world country where I can help these people. All I have to do is put in a certain amount of work.
Yeah, I think in these, you're able to create the greatest impact, and you can empower sort of people that have less. Whereas you when you give to people who already have the basic needs, or let's say if you give to somebody that has more than the basic needs, they they don't necessarily need those resources because they're capable of acquiring or getting those things themselves. So it's kind of giving a leg up to the underdogs, or like the ones that are less fortunate, and the ones that can go on and sort of use the little bit of resources and make a big difference. So that's why I think causes like giving internet to the last billion people on Earth, like that sort of thing, or sort of giving, like ensuring that like there's clean water for most people, or like you said, blindness, where like it requires such a small investment, but it makes such a big impact on scale. So like helping like a large number of people. And I think that's what it comes down to, right? Like if there's an issue that's impacting a lot of people and it's relative, the cost to address that issue is relatively cheap and it's going to improve their life substantially, that's where we should start. And I think that's where charities kind of try to start, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just finding the right place. But we're at the point now where Hardcore Headstart's goal or vision is to donate collectively $1 billion, right? But previous to that, there's steps that needs to be taken to be able to get there, right? that is, you need to help yourself first. You need to get yourself in a strong financial and, be a wise kind of human being. And then you need to help your family. Once you've helped your family, then all the things around you are sorted. And then you start helping people outside of your circle. You start helping your friends, I should say. Then you start helping your friends' friends, and you start helping everyone. And then you have this whole team of people, team being hundreds and hundreds, even thousands of people who are aligned with a similar vision. And then true impact can be done.
Yeah.
Like, what if Hardcore Headstart the vision of Hardcore Headstart was the main arching kind of principle we were taught in schools, the way of life? I feel like the world would be a much happier place.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
So, I don't know. But that's all I got. That was on my mind today.
Yeah.
All right, Marky, I reckon we wrap it up there, man. Dude, talking about the why, I think is so important for a lot of people. It's interesting that we have similar whys with just kind of different experience. Yours being a hell of a lot more in traveling than fucking mine. There's only one goddamn thing. And it's kind of speaking to someone of your age, you being 30, and how you view it through kind of all the experiences you had as well. It should be very obvious to a lot of people that, the selfish wants are not your why. Your why needs to be derived from something that is very impactful, is going to get you through the dip. So I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you very much to Marky for talking to me today, as usual. Every Sunday is a goddamn banger.
My pleasure, mate. My pleasure. And I think just to leave you guys with a couple of things, just, like when you've got your goals or you've got things you're working towards, just ask why a couple of times. So, if your goal is to move out, why? Right? If your goal is to make $1 million, why? So you can, have the freedoms, but why do you want the freedoms? And like if it's traveling, why traveling? And like the more times you ask the why, you'll get closer to what the actual reason is.
And the reason for you doing anything, right?
Correct.
Hang on. All right, all. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. As I said last week, we drop every episode at 2 p.m. on a Sunday. So please make sure you check it out, share it with your friends. Like, subscribe, click on the notification bell so you know when we are posting. It is good to see you all, and I will see you next week, Marky.
Catch you guys next week. Peace.
Let's go.